A strong first impression matters a lot in the early access game, and Volcanoids, from studio, Volcanoid, certainly makes one. Volcanoids sports a clean, flashy store page where it bills itself as a base-building, open-world survival shooter that replaces your typical base with a giant drill. Alone or with friends, explore an island plagued by eruptions, upgrade your drill, and fight robots to uncover what's been hiding beneath the surface. When you actually boot the game up and get into it, it does feature all of the advertised elements and executes on several of them quite well, but other key things are uneven or underdeveloped. But with the unveiling of a work-in-progress overhaul to the game's entire world map and story, right now is an opportune time to take an honest snapshot of what Volcanoids the game has to offer if you buy it right now, as well as where Volcanoid, the studio, intends to take it from here. Welcome back to Status Report, where we check up on games in progress and see how they've grown, and if you want to help this channel grow, please like the video, subscribe, leave a comment, tell me about your favorite giant drill. I like the Underminer's drill from The Incredibles. What drill's got you all hot and bothered? Let me know. It's safe to say that Volcanoid's development has been an exceedingly slow burn. It's been in early access since 2019. The early access statement on the Steam page explains that the original hope was to have a 2-year development cycle. However, due to increases in scope, they've overshot that by a while. But even though it's been slow, the progress is there, and the devs keep a clear channel of communication open during gaps between content updates. These video and text posts stretch back to the earliest conceptual level and offer insight into not only the long-term plans for Volcanoids, but also the developer's guiding design philosophy.
Clear definition of the end goal right from the start helps us to keep project and all its parts consistent. It may seem the game can be finished in short time in current concept, but we can easily add more and more steps between start and endpoint, without worrying the game will diverge from original plan or become hard to manage.
When I first picked the game up back in 2020, things were a bit too underbaked for my taste. The combat, one of the most important parts of the game, was a shallow slog. This was mostly due to the fact that enemy bullet impacts were registered with hit scan, rather than being dodgeable projectiles. It seemed as though a drastic change was needed, and I was pleased to see that the devs agreed, because shortly thereafter, they fully overhauled the combat to have, physics involved. So now you can experience the adrenaline rush of bullets and shrapnel whizzing past your head. This massive improvement showed me that the devs really mean it when they say that any and everything is subject to change if you're willing to wait. In the drill game, you start in a submarine, which is very on brand for me. The vessel is captained by a well-groomed older gentleman, the captain, who I can't help but imagine has a thick Scottish accent. He's there to help get you on your feet and eventually into a drill. At the top of your screen there is a timer. When the timer reaches 0, a volcano in the center of the island will erupt, wiping out anything and anyone not safely underground. Running for your drill or Indiana Jones reference or conveniently located bomb shelter can be very exciting, and if you're caught out you will be instantly cremated, but like this bomb shelter you can hide in doesn't even have a door, and the hallway to enter is facing directly towards the volcano. The right ideas are there, but some of the execution can undercut the game's reality. Also, there is currently no option to disable this on-screen timer, despite every crewmate coming equipped with a handy wrist gauntlet which has the timer displayed on it. The eruption lasts for about a minute, at which point you are free to roam about the volcanic hellscape. There are plans to add survival gear like gas masks in the future, but for now you and your lungs are just fine vaping that boiled rock gas. Depending on how long you spend messing around in the captain's sub, you may need to wait out the first eruption, but then it's time to grab your trusty pickaxe and go gather materials. You make your way from the sub to the mainland via this long dock. The dock has one plank that's snapped in half, and you need to jump over it. Hang on. Why? Once you've mined, it's time to craft. Specifically, some extra ammunition and a drill core, which you will be inserting into the control console of a hostile drill in order to make it your own. But first, you'll need to blast the robot guards, bust the door down, and wreak havoc from the inside when they're respawning. Enemy drills have troop spawners and eventually tank and airship spawners, which will continuously replenish their ranks until you destroy them. To take control of a drill, you must also destroy at least 60% of its existing modules, which are upgrades that are installed in and deployed from the drill's walls and ceiling. It's wise to pay attention to the modules your starter drill spawned with and decide which ones to keep for an early boost. Your selection of modules is limited by a combination of factors: research tier, wall space, power generation, and core slots. It's up to you to find a balance of production, utility, and defensive modules which will be sustainable as you progress. But enemy drills aren't the only points of interest speckling the placeholder island's hills and valleys. I mean, they almost are, but there are also lava lakes where rare resources spawn, scattered townlets, featuring bomb shelters and also white buildings that somehow survive the repeated blast waves completely unscathed, and a number of mine shafts. The towns are extremely simple, but they're fine. They fill the space. It's a nice change of pace to shoot at a tank from behind someone's porch instead of a tree. The mines are in rough shape. Like, hole-in-the-map rough shape.
Don't try to fall through it.
Why not?
Feels disrespectful.
You can hide in them from the eruption, and robots won't spawn in them. It seems as if they were primarily added to serve as a quick way of getting a big haul of one specific resource. In each area, you will eventually research enough robot scraps to upgrade your drill to the point where it can break through previously impassable terrain and carry you to one of 3 volcanic caves, where you must destabilize the supports of a heavily guarded evil eruption machine. The game lagged out for a few seconds after I destroyed the machines, but it stopped after a little bit of time had passed. Time which I was fortunate to have enough of to spare, because if I'd started lagging like this and gotten caught in an eruption, I may have quit the game right there. After that, you make your way to the next sector of the island and go through a nearly identical process, only with more firepower on both sides. Now, you may expect that the captain's opening tutorial will segue into a story at some point, and in a way it does, by which I mean your interactions with the captain are all just part of one long tutorial. And that's fine, you've got to learn somehow. The game's systems are actually quite simple once you understand them, but they can be a lot to absorb at first. All the layers of upgrades and additions made over the years are just sort of shoved in there, so I'm really looking forward to an update that might do more to organize and streamline that experience. Here's what you need to know. Green is where you research the ability to improve your station's capabilities and learn the recipes to build upgrades for your drill. Red is where you turn raw ingredients into slightly less raw ingredients to use in those recipes. Blue is where you put those all together into a final product. You can even place additional programmable crafting stations to produce different ingredients and automate an entire supply line for essentials like ammunition or armor. You'll also need to build increasingly bulky modules which correspond to the different crafting station upgrades, and these need to be powered and deployed if you want to be able to craft anything other than the most basic items. This means that if you're forced to, say, retreat underground, you'll need to find somewhere safe to resurface before you can replenish your stockpiles. And if your drill is surfaced, it will eventually be attacked by enemy patrols. This can even happen when you're away, but as long as you have a few turrets and keep them loaded, it should be fine, and if you're ever worried, you can just send your drill underground to wait for you, or even summon it to your location if you're by an open spot. It was safe to say that after making my way through the first 1.5 sections of the island, I felt like I had a pretty good idea of how to progress, so I wanted to try what I'd learned on a harder difficulty, but found I did not have the option. You need to beat the game on normal difficulty before you can even start a run in hard or custom modes. This feels unnecessarily restrictive for a game that is already so simple. By the time I unlocked hard mode, the last thing I wanted to do was repeat the loop I had just done 3 times. But I did it anyway. I got things up and running much faster the second time around thanks to my accrued knowledge. Additionally, hard mode's decreased access to raw materials forced me to plan ahead and be more frugal about what I was crafting and when. I just wish I'd been allowed to begin my hard mode attempt without having my hand held through the entirety of a watered down version of it first. And this is the part where I tell you that navigation in this game is you clicking to move a JPEG. Yeah. Driving your drill in the drill game is clicking around a JPEG of a drill to navigate caves and bore through JPEGs of variably dense rocks so you can bump into JPEGs of supplies. I'm not even fully discarding the potential of this specific style of navigation. If you look at a game like 2015's Sunless Sea, that uses simple top-down JPEG navigation, but you need to change speeds and make wide turns. There's a sense of weight and momentum that Volcanoid's navigation currently lacks. It's functional and better than nothing, but I'm banking on it becoming less simplistic because there are mini-clip flash games I played in middle school that feel more like driving a giant drill than this does. At the very least, it might be nice if the JPEG's design matched your actual drill. There are tons of color options and sick decals for your hull on the surface, but the JPEG is always a basic red and the shortest length. But enough about the drill's clothes, let's talk about what you'll be wearing. There are 3 tiers of player armor you will upgrade your way through, and I'm of the opinion that the first tier visually fits the game a lot better than the other 2. This reads as steampunk, these 2 feel more high fantasy. If you take damage without your armor breaking, you can repair it using charges from a repair station, which can be placed on the walls of your drill, or later on summoned to you on a drone, which we will get to later. If your armor hits 0, it is fully gone, and you need to put on another set of armor because chargers will not work from an empty bar. This added wrinkle rewards you for keeping track of your armor in firefights and avoiding taking unnecessary damage so you can get as much value out of your gear as possible, if you have the time to be careful. Based on the difficulty settings, you'll have a total of 19 to 36 minutes to complete any objective you're working towards on the map before the volcano resets everything. You'll often have a bit of a walk to reach the nearest enemy drill, since there are only a limited number of places where drills can surface in each zone. You can't just pop out of the ground anywhere you please, and if you aren't quick, there's even the chance an enemy drill will steal a spot you're currently burrowed under and force you to relocate, wasting more precious time. This means that sometimes you're just stuck waiting around, too early to take cover, but too late to embark on any sort of intensive mission. This time can be spent crafting, decorating, dancing, or if you have an itchy trigger finger and a chip on your shoulder, you could try to complete objectives against the clock anyway. In one case early on, rather than retreat and have to start over, I took up a position inside of the enemy drill, hoping I might catch a ride when they took shelter from the blast. Only they never did. Because I was on board, the drill chose to remain in place until the eruption wiped it off the map, and me with it. But one unexpected result of my attempt to stow away was that I discovered what may be the most consistent way of saving time, avoiding death, and preventing the drill from running away: blasting a hole in the least defended corner, rushing inside, then alternating between camping in corners to ambush enemy reinforcements, and smashing everything in sight. I found that in the cramped conditions, I could do almost all of the necessary demolition pretty effectively with just a shotgun. Even the lowest tier of shotgun ammo does a lot of damage to buildings and costs less to craft than explosives. You can also mostly ignore larger threats like tanks with this method, since they can't chase you inside, and they may even help you by trying to shoot you through the walls, destroying them in the process. In fact, it works a little too well. It sometimes felt as if the only reason I was succeeding was by minimizing any actual interaction with threats as much as humanly possible. It also means that destroying the head of the drill, which the game tutorializes as the right way to engage, is arguably a waste of time, since breaking a hole in the wall doesn't take nearly as much time as breaking the drill head, and once you're on board, as long as you don't die, there's no real need to exit until it's blowing up. The campaign's ongoing arms race has players trailing slightly behind the capabilities of the robots for most of the experience, but the current rollout of these tech tiers is handled in a way that leads to certain hiccups in progression, the most noticeable of which stem from the Tesla update. These weapons use focused electrical blasts to slow and damage enemies, as well as to intercept and destroy incoming heavy ordnance, which is incredibly helpful when your attackers break out the grenade launchers. I love the look of these Tesla weapons and structures, and I enjoy using them too, but, and this is a big but, the robots get access to all of that too. And as the enemy's numbers grow, you learn to make stronger explosives to even the odds, so I think it's fair for the robots to have a way to counteract rockets or grenades. I really like the addition of airships with mounted Teslas that hover over the battlefield protecting their troops, but it's not just them. The Tesla troopers start to add up, and the Tesla turrets, and mini Tesla wall nodes, and also there are Tesla tanks, and oh good, now the normal tanks have mini Tesla nodes too. And Tesla weapons can't miss, and also they slow you. And somewhere in there, things have the risk of snowballing from feeling challenging to just feeling unfair. The devs have already implemented changes in response to player feedback to make Teslas slightly less oppressive, and moved the formerly endgame recipe for the most reliable counter to Tesla tech, explosive rifle ammunition, to be available earlier, which helps, but also led to the rest of my impressive arsenal playing second fiddle to the rifle in most settings. In the broader picture, I believe this update lays a solid foundation, but I suspect we may see even more adjustments to how Tesla tech functions in the future. As the challenge increases, you'll find you have less time for activities like mining. You'll eventually be able to offload the bulk of your mining to a programmable drone buddy, who automatically retrieves minerals of your choice while you're out focusing on other tasks. And there are 2 other drones as well, both of which are combat focused. They can be summoned to you on a mercifully short cooldown using your gauntlet. One is a turret that can use a weapon and ammunition of your choice to provide covering fire. The other is arguably the single most helpful tool in the game. It has deployable cover, a built-in Tesla turret, storage slots you can use to send loot back to your drill, and stations to quickly replenish both your health and your armor in the field. I don't think I could have completed the final stretch of this game without the aid of my brave little buddy. And that final stretch also ended super suddenly. I knew it was coming, but boy was it abrupt. Once you complete the final fight, like the millisecond you do, you are shown a quick cutscene, and then you and your drill are free to roam the now 100% robot and explosion-free island doing, well, basically nothing, because there's nothing else for you to fight. The ending feeling unfinished is completely justifiable given the in-limbo state of everything else, but I'm hoping the eventual map and story overhauls will also add some sort of endgame activities, and use that to lead into a more complete version for the game as a whole. Other than that, I hope to see more emphasis put on the survival elements, because there's no thirst, hunger, or any of the other core systems you might expect to see in the survival genre, but I do see how those things could fit into the game eventually. If you're like me and enjoy watching or experiencing the ups and downs of an independent game dev's creative process, playing a bit, then stepping away to pick it up again as it grows and changes, check Volcanoids out. possibly on sale, and if you're not quite there, Volcanoids at least deserves a spot on your following or wish list. With the addition of support for a small but growing Steam workshop, the word of the day is potential. Also slow. Slow-tential. If you want to hear more about Volcanoids in the future, or see videos about other games, let me know by subscribing, liking, and commenting because it helps so much. But until next time, I'm Jamie. Thanks for watching Standard Gaming.